Caught boyfriend's affair and lies. My revenge left him homeless. The quiet hum of the refrigerator was the loudest sound in the kitchen. I stood by the counter, my coffee mug warm in my hands, trying to make sense of what Dylan had just said. I think we should break up, he dropped on me. You don't do enough around the house. A strange, almost crazy laugh wanted to escape me, but it died in my throat. Instead, a sudden, clear thought hit me. 6 years. 6 years of slowly adjusting my life to fit his big dreams that never seemed to happen. The YouTube channel that just died out. The NFT idea that vanished. The crypto phase that ate up his small savings. Every new big idea was me putting in more hope, hoping it would work out, but it never did. My mind went back over those years. I remembered how warm things felt in the beginning. How much I really believed he had potential, even if it was buried under layers of silly dreams. But belief had changed into something else. A quiet. The strong decision to keep us going. The house payments. The electricity and water bills. The groceries. The car payments. All fell to me. It just showed how determined I was. Or maybe how naive I was. He was the dreamer. And I was the fool who kept believing those dreams would one day support us. Each time he'd declare, this time it'll be different. A part of me, tired but still hopeful, would push down the doubts and just support him again. The past 2 weeks had felt like walking through a thick fog. Dylan's sudden distance. His vague comments about needing space to grow. His weird complaints about unwashed dishes or unfolded laundry. I just thought it was the start of another one of his deep thinking phases linked to a new project. I never suspected it was leading up to this. His accusation, that I didn't contribute enough, hung in the air, like a sick joke just for me. When I asked him to explain, a desperate part of me still clinging to the idea that he couldn't possibly be serious, he just doubled down. You never clean up after yourself, and I feel like I do all the emotional work around here. I'm always the one who has to point out when things need to be done. His voice was flat, with no feeling, like he was just reading from a script. My eyes drifted around the kitchen. The counter where my coffee mug still sat. The stack of clean laundry waiting to be folded. Small things. For sure. But they were minor ripples in a life I worked crazy hours to keep afloat. A life where he brainstormed his next big delusion from the comfort of my home. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. His biggest contributions had been moving a bookshelf around and tidying up my plastic containers. The man couldn't even order takeout without checking 3 times. Yet he claimed to carry the emotional burden. Then the full weight of his sheer audacity hit me. He started talking about the house as if it were already his. This will be a good fresh start for both of us, he'd chirped. You can move back in with your mom. He spoke of turning my guest room into his office. Of getting a dog, because there won't be anyone to complain about the hair anymore. It was then that the pieces clicked into place. A cold, hard truth that quieted the storm brewing inside me. He genuinely believed this house was his. He had forgotten. Or maybe just never bothered to learn. That this entire place, the deed, the mortgage, every single bill, was solely in my name. My grandparents' inheritance. My responsibility. My investment. I excused myself, walking away from him as if to simply get something. Inside. Account. Strategic resolve settled in. There would be no argument. No desperate playas. No emotional outburst. He was so deeply stuck in his delusion, and I would let him enjoy it. Let him feel victorious. Let him imagine me packing bags, heading out the door. He had no idea what was coming. And a quiet, almost exciting certainty settled within me. I was about to watch him realize exactly how badly he had messed up. The immediate aftermath of Dylan's breakup declaration was a strange dance of unspoken assumptions. He truly did carry himself like the lord of a newly inherited manor. My house. Suddenly his castle. He sprawled on the couch, leaving a trail of crumbs and playing games until the early hours, oblivious to the fact that I was watching, waiting. His casual instructions about what I needed to pack felt like a bizarre performance. How far would this delusion stretch? I had to know. About a week in, he told me a friend was coming over. He said it like it was no big deal, barely even looking at me. You need to respect his space, he mumbled. His space. In my house, mind you. I just nodded, deciding to go along with it for now. When the doorbell rang, I opened it to a nice lady, Ella, holding a bottle of wine. She smiled brightly, but the way she looked at Dylan, so comfortable and close, without even needing to speak, told me everything. She was definitely more than just a friend. Dylan just walked past me, didn't even introduce us, and started showing Ella around my house. He showed off each room like he was a pro real estate agent, sounding ridiculously proud. "This is the living room. I've been thinking about getting a new couch," he said. He pointed to the kitchen. Then, finally, to the extra room I'd set up for his supposed work from home gigs. "This is my office," he announced. "Where I do most of my work these days." I almost let out a bitter laugh. Work? He hadn't had a proper job in ages. That office was mostly just where he played video game. Ella, poor thing, believed every word. Her eyes shone with the idea of a future together in this house. My house, mind you. I stood in the kitchen, holding my coffee mug so tight my knuckles turned white. A quiet storm was building inside me. I really wanted to just spill the beans, to break his fake story apart. But a colder, smarter thought won out. I wanted him to dig himself into a deeper hole. I would just watch and wait. He even pulled me aside later that evening. He had this fake, pitying look in his eyes. "I think it's best if we start figuring out when you'll be out," he said. "No rush. Of course. But Ella and I need to start planning." "Planning what? Exactly? A housewarming party in my living room?" My smile felt forced. But I managed to say, "Oh, don't worry about me. I'm handling everything." You could practically see his smug satisfaction. He really thought he had won. The next morning, all my quiet plans from the past few days started to happen. While he was sleeping, clueless, I made a phone call. The locksmith worked fast. The clicks of the new locks sounded quick and final. He was done in less than an hour, leaving a faint smell of metal and a big change in the air. I paid him, feeling a silent weight lift off my shoulders. Then I sat down with a cup of tea, waiting for what was going to happen. When Dylan finally came out, stretching, and casually walking into the kitchen with his usual entitled attitude, I looked him in the eye. My voice was calm, almost like I was just making small talk. "Oh, by the way," I said, "I had the locks changed this morning. You'll need to grab your stuff and leave by the end of the day." The color left his face, just like I thought it would. He was shocked. "What do you mean you changed the locks? You can't do that." His voice got louder, full of sudden, new panic. "Oh, I absolutely can," I replied, my voice steady. It didn't show any of the quiet satisfaction growing inside me. "This is my house, remember? It's in my name. You're not on the papers. You're not on the loan. And now you're not welcome here." He fumbled through arguments, begged, and even tried to make me feel bad. "I thought you loved me. I thought we were building something together." His desperation was almost funny. Ella showed up then, probably expecting another nice evening. Instead, she found Dylan panicking, his perfect little world falling apart. "Wait. This isn't your house?" she asked, sounding confused. Dylan couldn't even look at her. By the end of the day, his few things were just thrown into boxes. He left, a shadow of his old arrogant self, with a very confused Ella following him. I watched them leave, then walked back into my quiet house. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the very couch Dylan had planned to replace. The quiet was deep and peaceful. I thought about all the years, how much I had given, and all the patience I had poured into something that just took and took. A quiet, strong promise formed in my mind. Never again. Later, I heard from someone we both knew. Dylan was sleeping on people's couches. Ella had left him when she found out how things really were. Karma. A simple, true thing. My house was quiet after Dylan left, but not for long. Just when I thought things were calm, something new popped up. A few days later, Caleb, a friend we both knew, called me. His voice was a bit shaky. Too careful. I knew right away what was up. "Did Dylan send you?" I asked him straight. He finally said yes, sounding like he didn't want to. It turned out Dylan had been making up a whole story for months. A big show for everyone, not just me. He'd told all our friends, his family, everyone, that he was about to take over the house. To start fresh after putting up with my nagging for ages. He made himself sound like the poor guy who had suffered. The one who did all the work to make our place feel like home. I almost laughed out loud. Work? He could barely do his own washing. I asked Caleb if Dylan had ever said whose name was really on the house papers. He said you'd probably just move out when he asked. Caleb admitted. And if you didn't, he'd sort it out. Oh. Naive Dylan. It seemed he was so sure I'd just give up that he'd already celebrated. Bragging about being free and even planning housewarming parties in my living room. The nerve of him was shocking, but it also made me quietly determined. Caleb also told me something that made me really mad inside. Dylan had been making it sound like I did nothing. He'd told people I was hardly paying anything, that he was keeping everything going. This from a guy who didn't even know how much the house payment was each month. The lies were so bold, so weird, that I found it almost darkly funny. I thanked Caleb. That information was like a secret weapon for me. At first, I thought about just letting it go. He was out. The house was mine. I could just move on. But then I remembered all the little ways he'd messed with me for years. How I carried all the money worries. And now, this plan to badmouth me. No. I wasn't going to let that slide. I decided to hit Dylan where it hurt the most. His pride. The perfect image he showed everyone. First, I sent a group message to our shared friends. It was polite. Just facts. No feelings involved. I laid out the truth. The house was all mine. 100%. Dylan never paid a single cent for the house payment or bills. Any talk about him building our life together was a total lie. I attached screenshots. An old rental agreement for his place before he moved in showing my name on my property. And he wasn't there. Utility bills. Even a picture of the house papers with only my name on them. I wasn't looking for drama. I just wanted to set the record straight. Next, I did something practical. It almost felt good. I called a local charity that helps people furnish their homes. I gave them all of Dylan's leftover stuff. His old desk. A couch he hardly ever sat on. Even the gaming chair he left when he rushed out. They were thankful. I felt relieved. Lastly, I decided to tell Dylan's parents. They had always been nice. And I thought they should know the real story. Without Dylan's made-up parts. I didn't go into every ugly detail. But I gave them enough facts to break down his poor me story. The group message blew up, and a quiet understanding spread among our friends. Most people were shocked and supportive. A few of his close mates tried to defend him weakly. He's going through a lot. But I shut it down with a simple, firm truth. Everyone has struggles. But that doesn't make it okay to lie and cheat. Dylan, naturally, found out. His angry call vibrated in my ear. He yelled that I was ruining his life, that I had no right to tell our business to everyone. My voice stayed calm. You've been doing that yourself for months, Dylan. I just set things straight. Then, I quietly clicked the phone. I hung up. I blocked his number. His parents were horrified. They really meant their apologies. And you could hear the sadness for what their son had done. His mom even offered to pay me back for some of the bills, which I politely said no to. It wasn't about the money. It was about the truth. Weeks later, I got an unexpected bonus. I bumped into Ella at a coffee shop. She came up to me, looking really embarrassed, and said sorry. Dylan had lied to her about everything. Then, the almost unbelievable kicker, Dylan was sleeping in his car. His friends, it seemed, weren't keen on letting him stay once the truth came out. His parents weren't helping him either. He had ruined all his connections. And now, he was just dealing with what he'd done. A quiet, knowing satisfaction settled in my chest. He had made his bed. Or more like, his car seat. The peace didn't last long. Just when I thought everything had settled down, something new stirred things up. Last Sunday, I was having lunch with my sister, Nora. She usually keeps her cool, but this time she was fidgeting, looking at her phone a lot. I knew that look. What's wrong? I asked her, my voice calm but firm. Don't get mad. She started. Which is always how bad news begins. But Dylan got in touch with me last week. A sudden shock went through me, but I kept my face blank. What did he want? It turned out Dylan had a new story. A new group of people he was trying to fool. He was telling anyone who would listen that we had a spoken agreement about the house. That we were basically married, which was a crazy way to describe our actual relationship. And that he'd helped out a lot. A total lie. But the worst part was this. He'd asked Nora for money. Not a small amount, but enough to get back on his feet and fight for what's rightfully his. And she had given it to him. My first reaction was pure disbelief, quickly followed by a quiet, burning anger. Nora, who was usually so smart and practical. But Dylan, it seemed, had spun a really convincing sad story. Homeless. Put everything into our relationship. Now left alone because of me. He'd even shown her specific screenshots of bills he'd paid years ago. Conveniently forgetting to mention that the money always came from me. I felt bad for him. Nora admitted. Staring at her coffee cup. He was living in his car. And he sounded so sure about everything. He just needed enough to start over. How much? My voice was low, controlled. $2,000. She mumbled. That number hit me hard, like a fresh wave of betrayal. I was about to burst out in anger when Nora held up her phone. Read this. As I scrolled through their text messages, a slow, growing understanding spread through me. Nora hadn't just given him the money. She'd made him sign a real IOU, detailing when he had to pay it back, and how much interest. She'd even used his car as collateral. Why all this for a small loan? I asked, my anger fading, replaced by a quiet admiration. A small smile touched her lips. Because I knew he was full of it, she said. I wanted proof of exactly how desperate he was getting. And a document showing he had to borrow money might be useful later. I could have hugged her. My sister. Smart and calculating. Just like me. The story got deeper. Caleb, our mutual friend, had sent me more screenshots. Dylan's social media was a new battleground. He was painting himself as the victim of a scheming gold digger who trapped him in a relationship just to steal his future money. The ridiculousness of it was almost funny. My future money was what I worked for, not his non-existent earnings. His posts were full of vague accusations. I had tricked him, taken advantage of his trusting nature. In this new version of reality, he was the one who was emotionally supportive, while I was unstable and couldn't keep healthy relationships. This, from the guy who once had a 3-hour meltdown because he got the wrong brand of energy drink. My friend Lucy, meanwhile, had been quietly tracking his increasingly desperate attempts to reach out. Dylan was changing his stories for different people, like a chameleon of lies. To some, he was the heartbroken victim. To others, the generous partner who was betrayed. To a few, he even claimed a business partnership that I had stabbed him in the back on. The stories just kept getting crazier and more unhinged. Last week, he'd told someone I'd promised to put his name on the house papers as a birthday gift, but then changed my mind just to be mean. This from a guy who once completely forgot my birthday, lost in his Twitch streamer dreams. Yesterday, a flood of increasingly wild messages came from him. Threats to expose me to everyone we know, to reveal all my secrets. I reread them. Acute amusement building inside me. What secrets did he think he had? My bad crypto investments. In the time he tried to become a professional dog photographer with my camera. Those were his secrets, not mine. I hadn't replied. But I saved every single message. Something deep inside told me this wasn't over. Dylan had never truly faced reality. And now, having blown through Nora's money, probably on another doomed plan, I knew he was surely cooking up a new scheme to claim what he crazily believed he deserved. The tension, though far off, remained. The peace didn't last. Just when I thought everything had settled, something new popped up. Last Sunday, I was just doing my normal grocery shopping when I saw Dylan's mom buy the vegetables. My first thought was to just give a quick, polite smile and walk past her. But she grabbed my cart, her hold surprisingly strong. We need to talk. Now. Her usual sweet nature was replaced with worry, and something else. Inquiet. Simmering anger. I looked at her face quickly and agreed to get coffee. Once we were settled, she took a deep breath, looking tired. I need to tell you what Dylan's been doing. This has gone too far. It turned out Dylan had shown up at their house last week with a new, complicated lie. He was getting the house back. He claimed he had proof that I'd tricked him into putting bills in my name, and even that he'd given me cash for a down payment. His mom had stopped him, reminding him that she and his dad were there when I bought the house, before Dylan even moved in. But he'd just ignored her, ranting about building a case and needing money to make things right. When they said no, he'd exploded, accusing them of never supporting his dreams, of choosing me over their own son. He's not the boy I raised, she murmured, her voice rough with sadness. I don't know what happened to him. Then she started to explain how deep his lies went. He'd told his 19-year-old sister that he'd bought me out of the house months ago, needing her savings for renovations on his property. His sister, trusting and innocent, had given him all her life savings. He'd told different versions of his story to every relative, claiming secret marriages, that he'd done sweat equity for the house, even that I was holding his gaming stuff hostage, equipment I'd given to charity months ago. She pulled out her phone and showed me a GoFundMe page. The title: Help Local Man Reclaim His Home from Manipulative Ex. I almost choked on my coffee. It was just unbelievable. The page was full of made-up stories. Invested his life savings into the house. What savings? Manipulated the paperwork to cut him out. He'd even posted pictures of my house, taking credit for renovations. The only renovation Dylan ever managed was moving furniture around to avoid looking for jobs. The most upsetting part? People were actually giving money. Not a lot. But enough to keep his delusion going. He'd collected about $800 before his mom, in a desperate move, reported the page and got it taken down. I had to do something, she stated. A quiet determination in her voice. He needs to face reality. She told me Dylan had been sleeping in his car in their driveway for a week, refusing to come inside unless they supported his cause. Every morning, he'd leave for meetings about getting the house back, coming home with new stories of his imaginary progress. Her breaking point came when she overheard him trying to convince Ella to be a witness for his fake claim. Ella, bless her, had apparently just laughed and hung up. I'm not telling you this so you'll feel sorry for him, his mom stressed, looking me in the eye. I'm telling you so you're ready. He's not going to stop until he has no choice. Then, a surprising gesture. She handed me a small photo album. Inside, pictures of Dylan from the last few years. Family gatherings. Holidays. In every single one, he was on his phone or laptop, deep in his next big thing, while everyone else around him was just living. I should have seen it sooner, she said, her voice full of regret. How he used people. How he always had an angle. I enabled him for too long. And I'm sorry you got caught up in. I tried to give the album back, but she shook her head. Keep it. Maybe someday he'll want to see the person he used to be. But for now, I need to do what I should have done years ago. She told me their decision. They were changing their locks. Cutting off his Wi-Fi. No more sleeping in their driveway. No more helping his fantasies. They'd arranged for him to stay with his uncle in another state, who offered a real job. No computers. No schemes. Just honest work. He either takes the offer and gets his life together, or he figures it out on his own. But we're done watching him tear down other people's lives because he refuses to build his own. As we left, she hugged me. A fragile warmth in her embrace. Thank you for showing him there are consequences. I just wish he'd learn from them. I watched her walk away, a mix of feelings swirling inside me. Relief that his own family finally saw him clearly. A quiet, deep sadness for the man he could have been, for the wasted years. And for myself, a sense of closure, like an old wound, finally healing. My house, my life, was truly mine again. The external situation with Dylan might not be completely fixed. But inside me, a deep and quiet peace had finally settled. Lesson. It's easy to get caught up in someone else's dream, especially when we've invested time, effort, and love into it. But ultimately, we have to prioritize our own happiness. Dylan's actions demonstrate that his inability to take responsibility sent him spiraling into chaos, while I found peace by asserting my boundaries. What do you think about how this situation played out? Do you think I handled it correctly? Or would you have approached it differently? Share your thoughts below. Bonus story. My girlfriend has this real-life princess thing going on. I'm totally behind her, but I get a little anxious about all the eyeballs she draws. Even with my worries, she ended things with me. I'd been with my girlfriend for around 5 months. We were buddies since college, but we only started going out after she finished up. We really hit it off. When I say princess syndrome, I don't mean that she's stuck up or acts like she's owed something, because she isn't. Her outfits are a huge part of her life. Almost every day, outside of work, she dresses like she stepped right out of a fairy tale. Think long, flowy skirts, lacy tops, that kind of stuff. She's so good looking, she can totally rock it. Initially, I thought it was super cute. But then, I started noticing how much time these outfits took. She has a blog with a ton of followers, and she's always putting up pictures of her outfits, links to where she got stuff, and all that jazz. She spends at least a few hours a day on her blog. Then she spends time making new clothes or stuff for her online shop. When we go out, we get stared at a lot. Her one-of-a-kind style just grabs everyone's attention. Folks can't help but do a double take, sometimes even a triple take. It's more than just a quick look, either. I've seen people literally stop walking, elbow their buddies, and point her out like she's famous. I've also caught people snapping sneaky photos of her on their phones, which is a real invasion of privacy. Once we were at a cafe, and a guy at the next table was fake texting but obviously aiming his phone to get a shot of her lacy top and long, swishy skirt. Another time, a group of teenagers at the mall were giggling and taking selfies with her in the back. All this attention makes me uneasy. It's like we're always putting on a show, and we can't just chill out alone. I tried to talk to her about it, asked if she could maybe dial it back a little. She thought I meant no hair accessories when we were out. So she ditched her usual flower crowns and headbands. While this was a small change, it didn't fix the real problem. She still wore her elaborate outfits. And the stares and hidden photos kept coming. I couldn't figure out how to tell her it wasn't just the little bits, but the whole vibe her clothes gave off. I kept telling her I loved her just as she was, but she just seemed to shrug it off every time. I try to make it clear how much I dug her one-of-a-kind style and how creative she was, that it's what got me interested in her from the start. I want her to know I'm just worried about her because I care, not trying to rip on her. But every time I bring it up, she just smiles, says thanks, and changes the subject. It feels like she's not really hearing me. Or maybe she's just choosing to ignore it. I was hoping that when she started her new job, her dream gig, she'd get a bit more serious. Especially at work. I figured a new workplace would make her dress more like everyone else, fit in with the office vibe. But nope. Her new boss and coworkers actually told her to lean into her style. They think her playful outfits are awesome and always tell her how great she looks. She's basically become the office's cool, stylish mascot, and that just makes her stick to her guns even more. While I'm glad she found a place that supports her like that, I just fret that folks won't see her as serious. Or they'll totally miss how sweet and smart she is because they're too busy looking at her clothes. My fear is her outfits might hide how good she actually is, making it tough for her to get credit for her smarts and hard work. I know she's super bright and caring, but I'm worried other people just won't look beyond the fancy stuff. How do I even bring up her clothes without making her upset? I'm in a real bind. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to run her life or that I'm not on her side. But I also want to shield her from people judging her. I gotta figure out how to say I'm worried in a way that shows I love how unique she is, but also want people to see the real her. It's a tricky talk. And I can say one part, but the other part just doesn't fit. I get that her style first caught my eye. Totally. That's legit. I just never thought it'd be such a huge thing in her life. Especially once she was done with school. Here's my hang-up. How do I ask her to dress more laid back when we're together without her getting the wrong idea again and without hurting her feelings? I can manage one part of that message. But the other part just won't click. She doesn't even need all those ruffles, she'd still look like royalty even in basic clothes. Her natural good looks and poise are what really stand out, not just the fancy get-ups. I've told her she's got this natural grace that doesn't need tons of lace and frills. But even after I tell her that, she still loads up on the tiny details and full-on fairy tale looks. Look. It's one thing for some artsy college kid to dress different. It's pretty much par for the course there. Even encouraged. When we were in college, her style totally blended with the creative, do-your-own-thing vibe. But now she's a 23-year-old woman, heading into the grown-up world where how you look and what people think of you first really matters. I'm scared her playful clothes won't be seen as right for her age and where she's at in life. To me, her outfits hide how smart she is and make her look a bit shallow. When folks see her in these wild, fairy tale get-ups, they might not bother to look deeper. They might just think she's obsessed with clothes and totally miss her quick wit and kind heart. I know she's brainy and thinks deeply, can talk about anything, and truly cares about folks. But I'm scared others will miss all that because they're stuck on her looks. It's a bummer because I see how awesome she is and what she could do, but I also know how fast society judges people just by their looks. I want her to get credit for her skills and kindness, not just her flashy style. I just wish she could find a middle ground so her true self shines, without her clothes hogging all the attention. Yeah. I really think it's for attention. She claims she doesn't care what anyone thinks, but she spends so much time on her blog, answering comments and all that, which makes me seriously wonder. That blog is a huge deal for her. She puts in hours setting up posts, snapping pics, and chatting with her fans. If she honestly didn't care what people thought, would she pour so much into keeping up her online profile? It seems like she just eats up all the compliments and praise she gets from her followers. She also told me she loves when little girls come up to her when she's all dressed up. And that totally screams attention-seeking to me. Her face just lights up when a kid walks up, eyes big with wonder, asking if she's a real-deal princess. She always talks about these moments with such happiness, how the kids' faces brighten, and how she feels like she's bringing some magic to their day. It's sweet. But it also makes me think that maybe part of why she dresses like this is for all the attention and compliments she gets, even if she won't straight up say it. Now, don't get me wrong, she doesn't dress in a way that's, like, bad or anything. She always looks put together, and she doesn't flash a lot of skin. Her clothes are always tidy, and she puts a lot of effort into making sure everything matches just right. But is it really the right call to rock a lace dress and a flower crown when you're just grabbing milk at the grocery store? It's cool if you're at a costume party or a big festival. But it's a whole different ballgame when you're just doing your daily errands. Like picking up groceries. Like I said before, it just pulls in a lot of unwanted eyeballs. People just stare. Some whisper. And yeah, some even snap pictures. She might love being the center of attention. But for me, it's just a lot to handle. I just want us to be able to do normal, everyday stuff without it feeling like we're putting on a performance. I worry that always being in the spotlight might mess with her in ways she doesn't even see. It's not just about what people say or how they look at her, it's about being able to just fit in sometimes. To have people take her seriously. And to steer clear of all the judging that comes with sticking out like a sore thumb. Update 1. I hadn't planned on posting again, but things took a turn. My last update made me realize I needed to be more supportive. But also find a way to tell her she could dress more casually sometimes. So we both felt good. Well, I never actually got the chance to talk to her about it. Last week, she called and asked to swing by my apartment after work. Her voice sounded a little off, not her usual cheerful self, but I didn't give it much thought at the time. When she showed up, she looked stunning, as always, rocking one of her signature looks, a soft pink lace top and a flowy floral skirt. But there was a serious look in her eyes. A kind of heavy vibe that made my stomach do flip-flops. I offered to whip up some dinner, hoping to lighten the mood and maybe turn the evening around. She usually loved my cooking, and I figured a nice meal might ease whatever was on her mind. But she said she couldn't stick around and that we needed to chat. The way she said it, so calm but firm, just made my heart sink to my boots. Trying to break the tension, I made a joke, asking if she was breaking up with me. I even forced a laugh, expecting her to smile and tell me it was nothing big. But instead, she just looked really guilty. Her eyes dropped to the floor, she bit her lip, and her hands fiddled with the edge of her skirt. Right then, I knew exactly where this was going, even if I really didn't want to believe it. She took a deep breath and started explaining, her voice shaking a little. She talked about how we were at different stages in life, and had different plans for the future. She'd been thinking about this for a while, she said. And it wasn't an easy call for her. Well, she did most of the talking. And I mostly just listened, too stunned to say much. But as she spoke, I found myself nodding along with what she was saying, even with that lump in my throat. It was a pretty chill breakup, all things considered, even though it hit me out of nowhere. We both admitted we cared a lot for each other but had to be real about our differences. We agreed to stay friends. Though right then, the idea of just being friends felt like a pretty lame prize for what we were losing. I'd never been dumped before, and let me tell you, it sucks. The weight of our talk hung heavy in the air after she left, and I was just standing there in my silent apartment, feeling more alone than I ever had. I'm having a tough time with all the social media stuff after the breakup. I want to keep up with her, but as soon as her relationship status changed, all these alternative-looking dudes started liking her posts and leaving comments on her pictures. I don't think she's actually dating any of these guys, but it still stings. My buddy wants to set me up on a date, but I'm not sure if that's a good move. I'm still feeling pretty raw from the breakup and unsure if I'm ready to dive back into the dating scene. The thought of starting fresh with someone new just feels overwhelming right now. On one hand, I appreciate my friend trying to help me move on. But on the other, I'm still trying to sort out everything that just happened. I got some of her reasons for breaking up, mainly. I want to move out of the city once my lease is up. And I really wanted her to move in with me. I dreamed of living somewhere calmer, maybe closer to nature, where life wasn't so crazy. I pictured us building a life together away from the city's noise and bustle. I was worried about doing long distance, knowing how hard that can be on a relationship. I thought if she moved in with me, we could skip that stress and get closer. But she just didn't want to leave the city. She loves the buzz, all the stuff to do, and the chances it gives her for her career and her blog. The city is just part of who she is, and she couldn't see herself really thriving anywhere else. She tried to explain how much the city meant to her, how it sparked her creativity and connected her to a community that liked her unique style. I understood her point, but it still hurt to realize our ideas for the future were so different. This core difference in what we wanted was something we just couldn't fix. It wasn't only about where we lived, but how we saw our lives playing out. She wanted to stay in the city's lively heart, while I longed for a slower pace in a more peaceful place. It became clear our paths were heading in different directions, and no amount of meeting halfway could bridge that gap. She also said something about me being controlling, but I honestly don't think that's true at all. It stung to hear her say that, because deep down, I know all I ever wanted was to keep her safe from any possible harm that all that attention might bring. I've always been super concerned about how other people might see her and the bad judgments they might make just based on her looks. My goal was never to boss her around or tell her how to live her life. I fell for her precisely because of her unique style and vibrant personality. But seeing how people reacted to her, the stares, the whispers, and those sneaky photos, it just made me worry about her safety. I feared that being constantly in the spotlight could lead to problems, from simple misunderstandings to more serious dangers. It wasn't about changing who she was, it was about making sure she was safe and respected. I never wanted anyone to look down on her, for any reason. Her clothes, while beautiful and special, sometimes seemed to overshadow her intelligence, her kindness, and all the other amazing qualities that made her so special. I was scared people wouldn't take her seriously in professional settings, or that they'd underestimate what she could do because they were too focused on how she looked on the outside. All I wanted was for her to be seen and appreciated for the incredible person she truly was, not just for what she wore. I honestly believed that if she just toned down her outfits a bit, it would help others look past the frills and lace and see the amazing person underneath. My suggestions were meant to protect her from people judging her unfairly and to make sure she got the respect she deserved. It really hurts that she saw my worries as me trying to control her. Update 2. Going through some old emails, I found this account again. It was like digging up a time capsule, totally unexpected. I was shocked that after all these years, I could still get in, and even more by how many folks had messaged me. Wow! My inbox was packed with messages, people offering support, giving advice, sharing their own similar stories. It really hit me, kind of a lot to take in, seeing how many people connected with what I wrote, and took the time to write back. It's a little awkward, going back through this breakup from nearly 10 years ago. Reading my old posts, seeing all those raw feelings I poured out, it brought back stuff I'd buried for a long time. I could almost feel that sharp pain of a broken heart, and the confusion that came after. But now, with some years behind me, I can see things way clearer. Looking back, it just wasn't meant to be. I think I was more messed up about getting dumped than actually losing her. Back then, that breakup felt like the end of everything. It was the first time I'd ever been cut loose. And my pride took a real beating. The shock and hurt were intense. And I couldn't figure out what was what. But seeing it now, I realize we were always headed in different directions. We had big differences in what we wanted out of life and what we believed in. Those things would have eventually pulled us apart, even if we'd stuck it out longer. What I thought was a huge loss was really just my ego getting bruised and me being scared of what came next. The relationship itself, even though it meant something, wasn't the perfect fit I'd talked myself into. We cared for each other, yeah. But we just didn't click in the ways that truly mattered. It's obvious to me now that the breakup was what we both needed to find our right ways in life. Thinking about it all, I can see how much I've changed since then. I'm 33 now. And I'm married to an amazing woman who's 31. We've been hitched for 4 years. And I seriously couldn't be happier with how our life has turned out. My wife is incredible. She's super nice. Always thinking of others. And she's got this energy for life that just rubs off on everyone. One of the biggest lessons I learned from my last relationship was how important it is to support what your partner loves to do. I've taken that to heart in my marriage. My wife is big into running and baking, 2 things that make her really happy and feel good about herself. She runs a lot, does local marathon, and just loves pushing herself. Those early morning runs are a special part of her day now. And I really respect how dedicated and disciplined she is. On weekends, our kitchen turns into a baking zone, where she tries out new recipes. Our whole house fills up with the awesome smell of fresh baked stuff. Her love for baking has brought so much joy to our family, and our friends are always hyped for whatever she bakes next. We've got a little girl who's turning 3 this year. She's the absolute best part of our lives, and watching her grow has been truly amazing. As of that, I want her to feel free to be herself, however she wants. As long as she's safe, of course. If she wants to play dress up as a princess, or be an astronaut, or anything else, I want her to know I'm right there, cheering her on and loving her choices. Helping her discover what she likes and showing her it's okay to be herself. That's something I'm really dedicated to. I'd do anything for them. My wife and daughter are my whole world, and keeping them happy is what matters most. I've learned to be more patient, to understand things better, and to be a rock for them. Those qualities have made our family bond so much stronger. The hard stuff from my past has really made me a better husband and dad. I try my best to make our home a place where everyone feels important and respected. Cheering on my wife's hobbies and helping our daughter get creative has brought us even closer. Our house is full of life and joy. With lots of love, laughter, and sometimes, a little flour flying during baking time. I'm thankful for how everything turned out, and for the wonderful family I'm lucky enough to call mine. I'm still connected with my ex on social media. We don't chat, but we'll hit like on each other's posts every now and then. She's married to another woman now, who also has a unique way of dressing. It's not as frilly as my ex used to dress, but it's still pretty distinct. Her photos look like they belong in a storybook. Like Anne of Green Gables or something. She seems really content on their farm together. So, what do you guys think about all this? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.